Extinction Rebellion was started at the end of 2018 with the aim, they say, of driving radical change through non-violent resistance.
We have come here to let you know that change is coming, whether you like it or not.
Something we, sadly, are only just recognising. The heating up of our climate is contributing to the terrifying loss of animal and plant species. Yet at the same time, flash flooding is becoming more frequent. And around the world, we're seeing ice caps melting. Here at home, soil degradation is a major issue. Without pollination and healthy soil, there is no food. And without food, there is no life.
What if we stopped worrying about how bad it is getting and develop a vision of how good we can make it in the time we are gifted instead? Our story starts in the United Kingdom in a city called Manchester. For those who don't know, Manchester is the place where it all begins. This is a place where strangers treat you like family. The place of get-it-done-yourself grafting and inventiveness. A place where people work to demand change, from the strong women who fought for their right to vote. The suffragettes demanding deeds, not words. This is a place where you can be yourself and still fit right in. Which is why the Vegetarian Society first started here in 1848. Yeah, we've still got as many carnists as anywhere else, but the vegan scene here is one of the best in the world. Manchester also has the only fully vegan eco-supermarket in the UK, established in 1996. Unicorn is an ethical cooperative with local, zero-waste, healthy, affordable foods. And when you go through the checkouts, there's community art promoting the next protest. There's also a lot of people growing in Manchester, which is where the vegan movement is headed next. This is Dan. Dan works for VON, or the Vegan Organic Network. His parents started the charity. That's Jane, Dan's mum, and also David, his dad.
My name's David Graham. You want to know my age? I'm nearly 90.
David, in his youth, was an activist for peace, and after World War II travelled to India to learn from Gandhi's spiritual successor, Vinoba Bhave, and he's got some interesting points to make.
Okay, so the state of the world to a large extent can be laid at the doorstep of a very clever German scientist called Fritz Haber. Around about 1908, we put a block on them getting the saltpeter, which was a requirement in order to make explosives. Fritz Haber invented a method whereby he could extract an equivalent to saltpeter from the nitrogen in the air, which could then be used by the Germans to make as many explosives as they required. A byproduct of that was Zyklon B, which is a poison gas, and gas that was used in the First World War to gas the troops. And it was used widely in the concentration camps in what Hitler called the final solution. Another consequence, pesticide to kill insects that were attacking crops.
Then, with equal patience, under carefully controlled conditions, they systematically kill these superb specimens in the never-ending search for more powerful and useful insecticides.
And also nitrogenous fertilizers, which is used all over the world today, that is destroying the topsoil, whereby the forecasts are that the United Nations say that we only have possibly 30 years more harvests that we can gather. So ironically, The Fritz Haber experiment has resulted in the end of civilization as we know it. The planet will still be here, but I doubt very much if we will still be here.
Yeah. It's kind of scary, really, how much we've
It's for, the point is, it's for real.
The environmental activists in Manchester were all beginning to gather together.
It's green up north, and it's true when they tell you that it's bleak and cold. Cause when the sun don't shine, saps the soul, and then you cannot look so proud when you're standing under the clouds. See, I come from a place called the City of Rain, where the sky remains grey nearly every day. And it feels so Mickey D's, there's no price to pay. And there's a big pinch of salt with every word we say.
Meanwhile, Dan and I headed to London for a new Vegan Organic Network permaculture course that had just been set up.
We're in London.
See you later, Daisy.
And I do kind of wonder, the way things are at the moment, is it enough to be sustainable? Sustainable kind of means we're not making things any worse, and we can carry on as they are. Whereas regenerative means we're actively working to leave the world a better place than it is now. Rebuilding healthy, functional communities.
I googled organic vegetable greenhouse one day, and this place was 10 minutes from my house. I was like, no way! So I got straight in my car, drove down here, and I was like, wow, I need to be here.
So I built this course, and it was one of my dreams to actually put this together. Being in London now, there's not many spaces left for us to actually have that ability to do so. And again, it's a prime example of what could be done even in an urban area.
Like, I just felt kind of like my soul had just been lifted. Like, I was the happiest I'd ever been. Like, knowing that there were people out there doing these things, and they was doing it just from kindness.
And we can live in harmony with nature, and I think that's what permaculture is trying to do. And especially from a vegan perspective, is to obviously observe the animal kingdom and how it interacts with our landscape.
I think with soya and lots of other crops, there's lots of disinformation. It's like, I know there's a number of companies, I've got a friend here, we're seeing at vegan festivals that a lot of the stall holders are now people that aren't actually vegans, but they're people going, oh, this is an opportunity to make money. There are lots of big companies now going, oh, we make meat burgers, but we'll also make a vegan line because that makes money. And they've made lots of money, and I think great and good luck to them. But I think the responsibility is for the vegan companies to push up to the next mark, which is going veganic, and looking at it from seed to plate and the effects on the environment. They need to move up to the next level, and everyone else will move up with them, which would be great.
So vegan agriculture, it's one healthy ecosystem in and of itself, whereas monoculture growing of crops for human or animal consumption isn't.
People say that grass-fed beef is the way forward and organic beef is the way forward. But the reality is, if the meat-eating population today were to all eat grass-fed beef, we would need 3 planets in order to sustain the population.
Food is sold to us as a product. They don't care about our health and what nourishes us. They want the money, so they're selling us a product.
Don't just settle on, right, you know what, I'm going to buy a vegan monocrop, GM, pesticide sprayed product. Actually say, you know what, great, it's vegan. Now, where's the one that's been grown in a way where it's working naturally with the ecosystem around it, where it's supporting insects, where it's supporting bees, where it's supporting wildlife, and it's not fighting against nature, it's working with nature. That's where I think the vegan logic should take people beyond just, great, I can eat ice cream and eat sausage rolls.
Dan and I headed back to Manchester to meet an activist and grower over on a veganic site in Stockport.
I'm Helen, and I'm with the Kindling Trust, and we are at the moment at Woodbank Community Food Hub, which has a number of different projects, and one of them is a farm start programme, so it's training up new growers but to become commercial or vegan organic growers. So I suppose for me, veganism is part of a total food revolution. I feel strongly committed to being vegan, and it's who I've been for over half my life. But it's part of a bigger picture. I suppose it's where are your values? What are your values in all of this? And my values and where I'm coming from and why I'm vegan. A big part of why I'm vegan is about fairness, and McDonald's isn't that. And so I just don't think it can never do it. My ideal thing would be that McDonald's doesn't exist. People are eating at nice little independent places and cooking a lot themselves, and that everyone can afford to do that. It's great that there's a really big vegan movement, and I love that. But what I love about it is that people are thinking about the food system and talking about the food system as a whole, and that people feel quite political about it. And I don't think those people will eat in McDonald's. I don't think. I mean, here you can hear the birds. It's beautiful. It's amazing, and it would be like that again everywhere. You know, a better way of doing it, I suppose. Because then who can say no? Who can say no to this? Wouldn't you rather be doing this than popping into McDonald's for a vegan burger?
Okay, and you need the order by when? That'd be good to pop down and... We're just going up to Rowing with Grace. Gonna pick up the Veganic Veg.
Dan had a plan to set up a fully veganic food stall in Manchester to see how many vegans were interested in buying a more ethical choice from a veganic farm in Yorkshire. The food there was amazing.
Whoa, that's like mango.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Hey guys.
We loaded up the van.
See it. Oh, she's really lovely.
And then headed back through what looked like a green desert of fenced off animal fields in comparison to where we'd just been.
In my country, they took all the land and they divided it up into prisons for lambs, and they chopped down the trees and they sprayed all the weeds so that nothing would grow but grass. One day we'll watch it grow back. In my country, they killed all the wolves and they poisoned the rabbits, and the badgers were cold, and there was nowhere to run for the wild animals, because the cows and the lambs stood on divided up land with no trees to shade them at all. One day we'll watch it all fall.
The next day, and it was all systems go as we set up the veganic stall at the community garden centre and waited to see if anyone would turn up.
You tried any of the food yet?
Yeah, the peaches are amazing.
Yeah, tell me about the peaches.
Peaches are just so sweet. It's like, reminds me of going on holiday in Croatia where the peaches are just big and sweet and juicy. Yeah, fantastic that they're here today. Delicious.
This is vegan organic.
The vegan community is demanding this food. The vegan community are desperate for this food, and it's just joining the dots. The vegan companies to the vegan community. The vegan companies have so much clout. They're, you got soya milk, or you got rice milk, or you got nut milk. These are just monocrops. Yeah, these are mono. They only require one ingredient. Imagine being able to go into a shop and you'd be able to buy a bottle of soya milk, which is grown free from any animal inputs, free from any chemicals. At the moment, you can't do that. That is a ridiculous situation. Let's move forward. What's happening?
So what is required is an absolute change of culture and have a world that begins to meet decent human standards, both for human beings to be healthy and for animals not to be slaughtered.
With rewilding, we could see much more forest, much more biodiversity. A lot of land is dedicated to sheep and to cattle, and quite often they're only there because they're getting farm subsidies and not actually making any money in themselves. We need to embrace vegan agriculture and move forward to the revolution.
I see one of the most hopeful things is the Extinction Rebellion from young people, and think they bring a real ray of hope to what is happening in the world.
The different northern environmentalist groups decided it was time to come together and shut down Manchester in protest. And over 4 days, it grew and grew. Even a guy from the rainforest who had travelled to Manchester turned up to give a speech.
Spirit is most important because forest is our life, forest is our home.
And sang some songs.
In the destruction of my children's future and my own future.
We're gonna shut this system down. In the voice of my great granddaughter, say climate justice now. This is what democracy looks like.
In my country, the people decided that they are much stronger when they're not divided. And they joined all their hands and they took back the land, and they taught all their children to see that everyone born should be free. It's time to speak out. In my country, they sell all the foods that the scientists say are bad for you. And on hospital wards, they serve foods that can cause all the illnesses, death and disease. One day we'll get what we need.
No, no,